We're closing out our 10 most important players to the future of the Buffalo Bills series with my personal ballot and general thoughts on the project today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Well, folks, welcome in. I'm excited to continue and finish our conversation on the 10 most important players to the future of the Buffalo Bills. On Monday, we debuted or released or unveiled the list of the top 10 most important players to the future of the Buffalo Bills. And I have a panel of Buffalo Bills podcasters and content creators that voted on this. 13 different people on the panel, including myself. We submitted an individual ballot. I averaged them together to get the consensus rankings. And so on Monday, we launched all of that. On Tuesday, I went a little bit deeper with the panel and asked them some follow-up questions and kind of got into the why and some of the unique rankings and all of that. Today is my opportunity to give you my personal ballot, compare that to the consensus, and just give you some general thoughts on this project, because every year I've done this, it's very thought-provoking, and I think this year, especially as the Bills have had some transition on the roster, this project reveals a lot of that transition as well. And so just a very fascinating project. And today I just want to dump all of my final thoughts and give you my ballot. So let's start by giving you my ballot. In this segment, I'll do players 1 through 5. The next segment, I'll do players 6 through 10. Then I'll give you my just general thoughts, including a mistake that I think I made when we get to segment 3. But my number one player was obviously Josh Allen. Josh Allen was the consensus number one player. Everybody had him at number one on their ballot. There's not a whole lot of interesting things to say here. Josh Allen's importance to this team is absolutely critical. And I love the point that Greg Thompson brought up on the release video, where he talked about the gap between 1 and 2. So for Josh Allen to number 2 was Dalton Kincaid for us. That gap is probably bigger than any gap in the entire NFL in terms of player 1 to player 2. I'm inclined to believe that, to be completely honest with you. Josh Allen is critical. This is a contending team with Josh Allen. Without Josh Allen, I don't know. Are they a playoff team? Maybe. Josh Allen is this football team. And that has never been more true than right now, as they really go in a new direction with his nucleus around him. So Josh Allen is absolutely critical. Number 2, I do have Dalton Kincaid, which is exactly where the consensus had Dalton Kincaid, number 2. And my thought process here is, obviously the Bills have a lot invested in Dalton Kincaid, a first and a fourth round pick. But when you look at this offense and you try to find the Robin to the Batman, right? That other superstar. The guy in terms of skill players that I think has the best chance to become a superstar is Dalton Kincaid. And I love the skill set that he brings to the table, not only for what it means to the offense, but how it aligns with where so many of the best offenses in the NFL are going. They have a dynamic tight end, a Travis Kelce, a George Kittle, a Sam Laporta, a Mark Andrews. The best offenses have this guy. And there's so much economic benefit in having your go-to player in your passing game being a tight end. Surely you're seeing where these wide receiver contracts are falling. Amon-Ra St. Brown and A.J. Brown both just signed deals that pay them north of $30 million a season. Justin Jefferson's going to get crazy money. CeeDee Lamb's going to get crazy money. There's big money going to premier wide receivers, north of $30 million. The best tight ends, they're still in the $16, $17, $18 million a year range. So there's so much value and benefit in your go-to option in the passing game being a tight end because you're paying them so much less. And so there's just a lot to like about Dalton Kincaid, his status, and what he can mean to this team. It is huge. I think he's got a chance to be a superstar. Had a historic rookie season. I know that was overshadowed a bit by what Sam Laporta did with the Detroit Lions, but I mean, Dalton Kincaid had a top 10 rookie tight end season in the history of the NFL. He did. And how he builds on that is really exciting to me. I think it's huge for the outlook of this football team. And number 3, I had Dion Dawkins. The panel, the consensus on Dion Dawkins was number 5. Dion Dawkins has developed into one of the elite offensive linemen in the NFL. Coming off of his best season, 3-4 Pro Bowls in a row? The guy's getting better and better. And you can sense that under Aaron Kromer, he's really playing his best football. The reason the Bills ran the ball the way that they did last year was because of Dion Dawkins. I don't have the data on this, but I've speculated before. The amount of snaps that Dion Dawkins was a play side run blocker has to be a crazy high percentage because they either ran it behind him or they pulled Dion Dawkins from the backside. He became a play side blocker. He was huge. Lockdown and pass protection as well. A franchise left tackle if there ever was one in the NFL. And him continuing to be available, healthy, and playing at the level that he has is huge. And, of course, Dion Dawkins, a great football player, but also a great locker room asset, great for the community. Walter Payton Man of the Year. I mean, he's a stud through and through. He's been durable. I love him. Dion Dawkins, number 3 for me. Then I want to talk about number 4 and number 5 for me in tandem. At number 4, I have Ed Oliver. At number 5, I have Greg Rousseau. The panel had Ed Oliver at 3. The panel had Greg Rousseau at 7. I'm going to do probably an entire podcast on this at some point in the next few weeks. But when we consider why the Bills haven't been able to get over the hump in the playoffs, meaning 3 losses to Kansas City and 1 to Cincinnati in that 4-year stretch, to me, it's about the defensive line. You can bring up coaching decisions. You can bring up supporting cast for Josh Allen. Whatever you want to bring it to. To me, collectively, it's that the defensive line hasn't showed up enough. They haven't made impactful plays. They haven't been consistent enough with their pressure. They haven't gotten enough negative plays. And when I think about the guys on this team that can be impact playmakers, dudes on the defensive line, it's Ed Oliver and it's Greg Rousseau. Those are the 2 guys that I think can do it. Ed Oliver, obviously a big breakout season last year, finally kind of put it all together, made the plays that we've been hoping to see since he was drafted in the top 10. And you feel like, okay, we're good. Just continue doing that. Greg Rousseau, still a very young player. He's only 24 years old. I think he's already one of the best run-stopping defensive ends in the entire NFL. And I'm not sure he's ever going to be like a sack artist where this is a 15 sack a year guy perennially. But can he be an 8 to 12 guy? Yeah, I think he can. He's still a young player, young to playing defensive end. He's had some injuries, right? Last year, that foot injury was kind of a big deal. The production before and after the foot injury was significant. But when you look at this defensive line group and you ask yourself, who are the dudes that are going to show up and have the capacity to show up and make big-time plays in the playoffs against great teams? It's those 2 guys, and they got to do it. I think Josh Allen shows up every time in the playoffs. No concerns there. The coaching staff has let this team down in the playoffs. There's no question about it. No doubt. But I think the defensive line play has to be more impactful in the postseason. And the two guys that I think can do that, Ed Oliver and Greg Rousseau, who come in at 4 and 5 for me. So my 1 through 5, Josh Allen at 1, Dalton Kincaid at 2, Dion Dawkins at 3, Ed Oliver at 4, Greg Rousseau at number 5. All right, I want to break down number 6 through 10 for you, including a player that I am absolutely floored didn't make the consensus top 10. He'll be part of our conversation here in just a moment, so be sure to stick with me. Folks, you know what happened recently? We finally got the NFL schedule. There are so many high-profile games that I'm sure you're going to want to attend. Well, if you'd like to, check out Game Time. Game Time is the fast and easy way to purchase tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. I love the app. It's easy to navigate. They specialize in last-minute tickets. They give you flash deals, and they also give you an all-in price. So whenever you see the prices on Game Time, it is the price. You don't have to get those surprise fees at the end of the purchase. They're all there. Plus a seat view. They send the tickets right to your phone, so you don't have to dig through emails to find it. I mean, this is the best way to purchase tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets and download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, folks, I think this conversation is even more interesting than the top 5, and that is my 6 through 10. Coming in at number 6, I have linebacker Terrel Bernard. I think that Terrel Bernard proved so much to us last year. It was my biggest question going into the season. I know a lot of people that might have been the right tackle position. For me, it was middle linebacker. And boy, oh boy, did Terrel Bernard answer that in a big, big way. Not just coming in and doing a good job. He came in and did a great job. Made splash plays. His impact was obvious. And what impresses me so much about Terrel Bernard is that he sustained that level of play beyond the injury to Matt Milano and beyond the injury to Daquan Jones. Those are two critical players for him. His running mate at linebacker and his nose tackle. We know how big the nose tackle thing is. Remember Tremaine Edmonds, while the Bills are trying to navigate through all that, they finally get Daquan Jones. Tremaine Edmonds all of a sudden plays his best football. It's a big deal for a Mike linebacker, especially an undersized Mike linebacker like Terrel Bernard. And this dude's got like Jordan Phillips as his starting nose tackle in front of him, still making impactful plays and doing so without the veteran next to him and Matt Milano. I couldn't be more impressed with what Terrel Bernard did in his first season as a starter in 2023. And I think you look at Terrel Bernard and you see a future captain, maybe even this year. You see the quarterback of the defense, the leader. You love the way he's wired. You love the way the team talks about him in terms of the players and the coaches. I mean, this is going to be a core player for this defense and part of what this defense is built around for a long time. So for me, Terrel Bernard at number 6, the panel agrees. They put him at number 6. Number 7, I have Christian Benford, cornerback. The panel had him at number 9. I am really impressed with Christian Benford. I think he's the best young corner on the team. And not just through the lens of, okay, he's the best young corner on the Bills. I think within the landscape of the NFL, he's one of the best young corners. He tackles, he covers, he's got ball skills. This is your top corner, right? I mean, like Rasul Douglas is still here, but when you forecast this thing out, CB1 is Christian Benford, and that's fun because his initials are CB. That just landed for me. So there you go. Little off the rails moment. But Christian Benford, I think, is a stud and can be a fixture for this team for a long, long time at a critical position at cornerback. And you look at some of the wide receiver talent in the AFC East, whether it's Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle or Garrett Wilson, like you're going to be stressed. You got to play Kansas City. You're going to have to play Cincinnati. You got good quarterbacks and good receivers all over the AFC. You better have guys that can cover. Christian Benford has been an answer for this team. And to me, he's going to be one of the top 2 corners for a long time and probably CB1. Really important player to this team now and into the future. At number 8, This one stuns me a ton. I have Osiris Torrence, right guard. Me and Anthony Prohaska were the only two people that voted for Osiris Torrence. He winds up coming in at number 17 out of the 20 players that received the vote. 17th was Osiris Torrence. Big time rookie season, played every snap on offense, beat out Ryan Bates to be the right guard. For all the narratives about the Bills and not wanting to play rookies, Osiris Torrence, as a second round pick, came in and beat out a veteran and was wire to wire your right guard. Did he have some bumps along the way? Yeah, sure. Of course he did. He's a rookie. But really impressive stuff coming from being a starter at Louisiana, 1 year at Florida. The next thing you know, he's the right guard for the Buffalo Bills on one of the best offensive lines in football, one of the most productive offenses in the NFL. He set a really nice floor for what we can expect in future years out of Osiris Torrence. The reason that the Bills could run that tackle wrap play where Dion Dawkins pulls around is because they trust that Osiris Torrence can create that initial displacement play side to allow Dion Dawkins to get from the backside. He's huge. He's a big-time part of this equation moving forward. And I don't know if you saw like what these guards were getting paid on the open market. They're getting paid like left tackles. You saw what Landon Dickerson got. You saw what Robert Hunt got. These are like $100 million contract guards. $20 million a year for these guards. And Osiris Torrence is kind of on that trajectory when you think about everything I just said and then the skill set and what he can be moving forward. You think his best football is obviously still to come. In 3 years, could we be talking about Osiris Torrence signing a $100 million contract? Yeah, I think we can. And I certainly hope that's exactly the conversation we're having. Osiris Torrence has every bit of ability that a Robert Hunt has or a Landon Dickerson. I mean, you saw Damian Lewis get like $13 million a season. Osiris Torrence is in a good spot to be able to win over the team and the coaching staff as quickly as he has. I think the panel's sleeping on him. I really do. I'm stunned. I'm stunned that 2 of 13 people. That's it. Me and Anthony Prohaska. We're the only ones that voted for him. I'm very surprised. At number 9, I had Keon Coleman. The panel had him at number 4. I recognize the importance of Keon Coleman. He's the guy that when you look at this wide receiver core, and the Bills are definitely taking a money ball approach to the wide receiver core, and we'll see how it works out. But Keon Coleman's the guy with the upside to be a number 1 guy. He's got the size to be that X receiver. The Bills have, a pretty significant draft pick, the 33rd pick in the draft, invested in him. He's young, right? Just turned 21 like last week. So when I think about, okay, the Bills need a number 1 wide receiver, who can it be? Well, Keon Coleman. Is that this year? I don't know. Maybe next year. We'll see how it goes. Very young player. That's the guy, right? And so like your path to a number 1 receiver right now is Keon Coleman. And so I think that's really important. And him being that, since he's already here, right? It's not like you're talking about in the future. Well, the Bills will have to find a number 1 receiver someday. Well, this guy could be on the team in Keon Coleman. I think that would matter a ton. So I had him at number 9. The panel had him at number 4. So the group collectively a lot higher than I am in terms of the importance. Again, number 9's no small feat. But even with me voting him at number 9, the panel, he averages out at number 4. And then at number 10, I have Cole Bishop, which is exactly where he landed for the consensus. Cole Bishop, safety, second-round pick. I'll get into this in just a moment. I kind of regret putting Cole Bishop in there, mostly because I think there's a player that I should have put instead, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But what really motivated me to put Cole Bishop was that we've seen how important Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde have been to this football team, like huge. Safety play has been a big part of this defense, and the success of this defense has been very good for a long time. And this is a significant investment in the safety. Cole Bishop, second-round pick. Like, they've identified this guy as that next wave of safeties, right? Like, this is going to be an important player for delivering an important component of this defense that has historically been critical. So as a somewhat of a premium pick with an appealing skill set, athleticism, size, I think his impact could be pretty straightforward. And I think that's what leaned me into picking Cole Bishop. If I had to do it again, I probably would have done it differently. And I'll explain that for you here in just a moment. So be sure to stick with me. Today's podcast is brought to you by Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data that you need in one place. They are the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. You securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. All right, folks, I've alluded to, I think I made a mistake several times, and let me tell you what I think that mistake is. And that's leaving off Taron Johnson. I goofed. I really think I goofed here. Taron Johnson coming off of an all-pro season, now the highest paid slot corner in the league, just signed an extension, a 3-year extension with the team. I talk all the time about how important he is to the defense and how structurally his skill set is so important. They funnel a lot of targets to Taron Johnson. He plays linebacker and corner for this team. He disguises looks. He's so important. I can't believe I left him off. And part of the integrity of this project is I don't want people to collaborate on their ballots. I want them to think independently about the list and submit their list. And so the first thing I do is I make my list. I feel good about it. And then I go to the panel and I say, submit your list. And once my list is done, it's done. And, Greg Thompson winds up really being the only one to put him on his ballot. And I think Greg was right about that. And I think we missed the mark as a panel, myself included. So if I had to do this again, I would bump out Cole Bishop. And I probably put Taron Johnson somewhere. Maybe I have Terrel Bernard at 7, Osiris Torrence at 8. I probably put him at number 8 and then slide Torrence and Coleman down to 9 and 10. Like, that's what I think I should have done. Now, that wouldn't have been enough for the results of the project to be different. He would need more support than that, but it would certainly be a helpful step in Taron Johnson being appropriately represented. So I do have regrets about that. The one player that the panel had collectively, again, averaging together 13 sets of rankings that I didn't have on mine. So 9 of my 10 players make this list. The guy that the panel had collectively that I didn't is Matt Milano, who was the number 8 player, and I didn't rank him at all. And that's not because I'm not high on Matt Milano. I very much am high on Matt Milano. He's a great football player. The Bills missed him. There's no doubt about it. It just came down to this. He's on the other side of 30, and we saw this Bills defense, and we've seen this Bills defense perform at a high level without Matt Milano, right? There's just been, he's had some injuries along the way, and last year was a sustained absence, and the Bills kind of made it work. I think if they had Terrel Bernard in that playoff game against Kansas City, it might have been a different conversation. I think they could have achieved it all last year without Matt Milano. Again, I'm not trying to diminish Matt Milano. I'm justifying why I didn't put him on there. That was my thought process. The hardest players for me to leave off, obviously I just talked about Taron Johnson and how I think I made a mistake there. 2 more guys that were really tough to leave off. Spencer Brown at right tackle. You guys know I've been a champion for Spencer Brown since he's been drafted. Felt like the whole world turned their back on him going into 2023, and he proved a lot of people wrong. And now he's got an opportunity to become a very, very handsomely paid right tackle. And there's certainly a case based on what he did in 2023 and his trajectory as a player that he has already earned a contract. We'll see how the Bills handle that. But he's developing into a a really nice player for the Bills at right tackle. And that's a premium position. He's a good player. That's important. Certainly a case to have Spencer Brown on the list. Khalil Shakir as well, the other guy that I thought was tough to leave off. I mean, Shakir led this team in receiving the last 12 games last year on 50 less targets than Stephon Diggs got. And he's not just a slot receiver that runs choice routes and Josh Allen dumps him the ball into leverage. Like, that's not who he is. This dude wins down the field, and his yards after catch skills are really, really good. I mean, this guy's a legit playmaker. I would not be surprised if your leading target getters this year, Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir, number 2. It probably should be that way. Shakir was a baller last year, and he had almost no production the first 6 weeks of the season. All of that came late. So really excited about Khalil Shakir. He deserved a lot of consideration for this. Some other comments on the mix of players I thought were interesting of the 10 guys that made our list. And so let me get away from my personal ballot and back into the consensus. The consensus had it 1, Josh Allen, 2, Dalton Kincaid, 3, Ed Oliver, 4, Keon Coleman, 5, Dion Dawkins, 6, Terrel Bernard, 7, Greg Rousseau, 8, Matt Milano, 9, Christian Benford, 10, Cole Bishop. All 10 of those players were draft picks. That's the first time in 4 years of doing this project that all 10 of the players were players that Brandon Beane drafted. And I think that's good. You want your core of your football team to come through the draft. I think that's a good spot for that to be. Also, the average age, I think, is interesting. I've tracked the average age of this list every single year. It's 25.3 is the average age of the players on this list, which is down from last year, 26.9 last year. So 1.5 years younger, basically, collectively as a top 10 in 2020, going into 2024 compared to going into 2023. Found that to be interesting. Should be the case, right? A lot of the Bills' decisions that they made was to get younger and get cheaper, and mission accomplished. You have 5 offensive players, 5 defensive players. Kind of interesting that remains pretty balanced. And I think just generally this list this year aligns with the roster transition that we've seen from the Buffalo Bills. Some highlights on that transition from this list year over year. 5 players that didn't receive a single vote last year are in the top 10 this year. 5 players that didn't receive a single vote last year are in the top 10 this year. Half the list. Only 4 players on the list last year returned among the top 10 this year. 6 players, completely different. 5 of those players didn't receive a single vote last year. Fascinating transition. I thought Josh Allen said it really well in his press conference on Tuesday. When you're going to be an established quarterback for a team, you're going to play on 3-4 different teams within playing for the same team. That's where we're at with Josh Allen. It's the next chapter. I think there was like the early career Josh Allen and whatever that supporting cast was. Then it kind of built to what we saw over the last 4 years, where Josh Allen has really reached this elite status of play in the NFL. And now you're gearing up for like the next 3 to 5 years. And these players that are on this roster right now are going to be a big part of that. A lot of them are young and have to develop. There's players that will be very meaningful that are yet to come, right? And you kind of look at 2024, of course, the Bills are absolutely a contending team, but might even have more going for them in 2025 and 2026 and 2027. So this nucleus is what it is right now, but I think we're in the early stages of building a new nucleus, if that makes sense. So some carryover, but a lot of this is really, really different and really, really new. And I think that's life in the NFL. There's life cycles. Things are cyclical. Guys age out, free agency. Like it's all part of this deal. And that's where the Bills are at right now. And what's interesting is, like, I think the Chiefs were in this spot 2 years ago when they traded away Tyreek Hill and had a bunch of draft capital and, moved away from some other good veteran players. And then, look, they were in their transition window and they won 2 Super Bowls. So, like, palms to the air, whatever, right? But it's not a situation. The Bills are not going to be a good team. Like, I expect the Bills to absolutely be in the mix to win the AFC East and to win playoff games once again. And that's part of the deal in the NFL. And I align with my buddy Bruce Nolan. my objective is to be as good as you can for as long as you can and hope to get lucky along the way. I think the Bills are still very, very much in that as good as you can for as long as you can window. Just looks a little bit different, and it's going to continue to evolve. Let's hope that Brandon Beane pulls the right levers. Let's hope that Sean McDermott gets the most out of this roster. Let's hope we get over the hump. Because boy, oh boy, do I want to talk about a Super Bowl championship with you on this podcast. Man, oh man, I can't even imagine it. But I want to find out. So there you have it. The top 10 most important players to the future of the Buffalo Bills 2024 edition. Big thank you once again to the panel. They are awesome. They take it seriously. I asked them to, give me a ballot and then give me videos, and there's effort required, and anytime people give you effort and their time, I value that tremendously. And so big shout out to all of them for making this project what it is, and very excited for the 2025 iteration as well. Also, I've encouraged you to do this, I think, on every conversation we've had, but make your own list. Do it. Take the time and really think it through. Stack them 1 through 10, and you can kind of appreciate some of the challenges that come with it. And hopefully it's thought-provoking for you as well. A lot of you have done that and shared them in the YouTube comments, or I've gotten through our Locked On Bill subtext community or our Discord channel. Would love to see your ballots as well. So send it along if you're on YouTube or the Discord or wherever you choose to engage. All right, folks, that's it for today. As always, I thank you for being here. I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.